Hi, storytellers. Today I wanted to pop in just do a short video on what to do when you've hit an obstacle or a snag in your story where that stops you in your tracks. This has recently happened to me, which is kind of why I wanted to do a video and thinking it might help. I notice for myself that almost every novel I write, I end up writing up to 25,000 or 30,000 words, and then I seem to stop. And it's like I've hit a snag and an obstacle. I'm not sure what to do next. I'm not sure where to go with my novel. Now, with every novel I write, I do sketch out the possibilities for an outline, but I'm not a detailed outliner. I'm probably more of a tweener or a puzzler kind of outliner. I write out ideas that might happen with my main character, and I also do a deep dive into what my hero and heroine's fears. Something that's really helped me, knowing the main character's lies and the wounds is what has helped me to pinpoint where the climax and what the climax needs to be near the end of the novel. I've found as I've continued to read many, wonderful novels, I've noticed one thing is that the main character must face her greatest fear at the climax of the novel. So that's why it's important for me to know my main character's fears and the lies that they believe, because it literally helps me to pinpoint what the climax of my novel will be. It's like a homing beacon. And so it's really helpful. But the problem is I still do get stuck around the 25 or 30,000 word mark in my novel. That recently happened to me as I've been writing my first women's fiction clean romance book. I was stuck. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know how to get the story going to where I wanted it to go. I did have in mind a good idea for the climax, although that has since been really, fleshed out, and I know now even more details on the climax, which is good. But sometimes that can happen where you will you stop writing because you're not sure, what do I do next? And actually, I was relieved because I remember when, I don't know if you remember when fantasy writer George R.R. Martin, he stopped writing his book, A Song of Ice and Fire, and he stopped writing it for about 4 years. And I remember reading about that interview. He said something like, I know many readers are quite angry with me that the book isn't finished. And he said, I'm quite upset about it myself. And he wished he had finished it 4 years ago. And that he had many dark nights of the soul wondering if he would ever be able to finish the novel. And so, oddly enough, I found that actually rather encouraging, because if a famous author like George R.R. Martin faced the plot snag, I guess, the rest of us writers are in good company then when we get stuck in our book. And so I think a lot of us writers can relate to hitting a snag or what feels like a block in the writing of our novel. And it might come at a different point in your novel. Suddenly, I don't know what to write next. I'm not sure which direction that the story is going to take me. And then sometimes I worry that my story seems too simple, that it won't hold my reader's attention, or that I don't have enough action moments or scenes, or I worry that my subplot isn't working properly, like the minor characters that have shown up, that they aren't working properly. Anyway, all these things come into my head, and it stops me in my tracks, and I have a hard time, writing anything further. So I don't know about you, but being stuck with only, the first quarter of the novel written has sometimes felt like I'm between a rock and a hard place with no way out. So if you've ever felt that way, I want to share some tips today that might help you get your story figured out to help you begin writing your novel again. If that's where you're at right now and you find yourself stuck, here are some tips that I hope will help you figure out your story and get you writing again. The first thing I would say is what inspired you to write this particular novel in the first place? ask yourself, what was that made you want to write this novel that you're working on? For myself, in the women's fiction book that I'm writing, I really love the idea of writing a story about a woman sort of in her midlife who has a crisis, right, with her husband dying, and she hardly has any money. She finds out secrets that were hidden from her husband. So this really stirred something in me, like, what would that be like? And so these are the things that I explored in this story to rediscover your passion for your novel. Some questions that might help. Number one, what is it about my character that I really love, that really appeals to me? And number two, what situation can I create that will make my main character's life even more difficult? In my story, she literally has to sell her house, right, to pay off debt, and so she's at a crisis. These are things that I had to think about, right? So, in your story, what situation can you create that will make your main character's life even more difficult? Number three, what is the backstory of my minor characters that will make life very interesting, aka difficult, for your main character? Minor characters can actually play a very interesting part in the story I'm writing. That there's an older lady that's a mentor to Lizzie, and it's surprising some of the secrets that can be revealed in your mentor characters, and even in other characters that show up later on in the story, which has been happening to me as I'm writing. And then number four, what is it about this story idea that drew you in the first place? Is it a quest for justice? Is it a story of lost but second chance for love? Keep asking the what if questions and jot down the answers that come to mind. For me, this was definitely a very much second chance love story. Now that she's a widow, someone that growing up on the island that she knew, and so this is very much a second chance. In fact, the prologue is written in the hero's voice when he's first meets Lizzie when he's 12 years old. So that's a different take, right? But you'll be surprised at the different story ideas that come from just jotting down your ideas about what is my passion for writing this story. It is really important to rediscover your passion and your joy for the story. Interesting that Ray Bradbury, in his book Zen in the Art of Writing, he says the first thing a writer should be is excited. He should be things of fevers and enthusiasms. Without such vigor, he might as well be out picking peaches or digging ditches. And so there should be like a lot of enthusiasm and joy and passion as you write your novel. It will help you to break through that obstacle that's kind of in your way. And number two, to help you get unstuck, step away from your manuscript for a morning, an afternoon, or a full day, and go to your favorite place to think, whether that's a park, or a coffee shop. I did this recently with the novel I'm working on that I'm finishing now. I took an afternoon, I created a map of the beginning of the story all the way to the climax, and it was very helpful to see where the scenes were going to happen, which characters would be entering the scenes, right? I was able to it was sort of like a map. I was able to create almost like a bit of a timeline of events, which helped me to figure out also, this is where this next minor character should come on, or this is where the mentor should show up, or if I have this sort of twist in the story happening here, okay, so maybe I should have another setback for my main character in the next scene. That it just helped me puzzle it out. That's why I say I'm a bit of a puzzler, but it seems to work that way for me. If that is something that helps you, like I just went to the dollar store and got a big white cardboard and I jotted it down in pencil, but it really helped. And so, something like that might help you too. Give it a try. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Once you find your favorite place to think, grab a pad and a pen, or take poster paper and some ideas to brainstorm. First, maybe write down a summary of what you see for your novel, what your vision is for your novel. Write down what your vision is for your novel. Write down every character in your novel, whether they're major or minor characters, and answer this question: when I think about this character and what this character wants in the story, and what their motive is, what would be the next best scene I could write, in their point of view or with them in the scene? And then write down what this character would do next. This is really helpful, because even if it's a minor character, because if you write down what the minor character will do next, you'll be surprised at how you'll find it sort of naturally giving you ideas as to what the main character will do, or how the main character will react if this minor character does this, right? So these are little, ideas that will help, and it might even help, spark some twists in your novel, which is kind of fun. When that happens, I find that fun. And so number 3 tips to figure out your story to get you writing again. Number 3 is bring a character onto the scene who surprises everyone. And this might seem like this is tricky to do, but play around with it. You might be surprised. It could be someone who has held a secret on for a long time, and suddenly they just blurt it out, wherever they are. It will help if this is a character who has appeared before in your novel, and then when they show up in the scene, it'll cause more problems. Main character, this is the goal, right? Because you do want to make your main character's life a little more difficult, because that actually adds more interest for your readers, right? So this is helpful. Remember, with each character in your story, it's important to think about their wounds, fears, backstory, secrets, etc. And so do a real deep dive of each character in your story. More so, of course, with the main characters, but even the minor characters, it's helpful to know what their wounds are, and then what their motivation is. What is it that they want, right? These are things that'll be helpful for you. And so just by discovering these details, you'll have different scenes pop up in your imagination. And then start asking questions, and then jot the answers down. Why did this character suddenly show up onto the page and into the scene? What is their motive? What are they after? Perhaps this character has a secret that will cause a lot of difficulty for your main character, which often happens. And then number 3, how strong is the motive for this surprise character? What is she willing to do to reach that thing that she wants? You can figure out very surprising motives for even minor characters that will automatically trigger something in your main character, which ends up being very interesting. So that's tips I wanted to talk to today. I just wanted to jump on and just hopefully help you if you're feeling stuck in your novel. These are sometimes the things that I need. If I had someone to help me, talk me through some of the questions I could ask, this often helps me to, jog my imagination, so to speak, and to help me to figure out the story. So I hope this has helped you. I will link below some great resources, from, writing books that I've found very helpful, and I hope they'll help you too. So for today, that's it, and I'll be back next time with, I'm not sure what topic, but I'll be back next time, and we'll talk more about writing your story. So until next time, happy writing.